is fixing cars that are 75 years older than I am with Joe. Okay. Seriously though, we're back at it with the 24 Dodge Brothers. We got it down here in the shop yesterday afternoon. And we're going to see about getting it running. The goal is, today is December 27th, I believe. We're going to try to get it running before 2022. So we've got 3 days and no chance of getting spare parts. 4 days, I can't count. No chance of getting spare parts to try to get a car that's been sitting 20 years, for 20 years, running before it's 98 years old. So here we go. So we're changing the oil on this thing, getting it ready to see what it'll take to get it running. Something pretty cool. This was my grandfather's car, and he was in the Air Force back in Korea, into World War II through Korea time frame. And so this fitting, which he drove this on base a lot, is actually, the old drain plug is actually an aircraft plug. So that's a pretty cool memento from him. That's you don't see that really often, especially on a 24 Dodge Brothers. But anyways, we got the oil drained. It actually looks really good. No shiny bits in it. No lumps or clumps. So we should be good to go on the oil. That's pretty cool. Yeah. So, like modern cars with an oil cap, this is all that you got. And this, back in 1924, is all that you had to filter the oil. There is no external oil filter on this anywheres. And of course, this only filters oil going into the engine. And you can see about how good of a job it does. Not very. So we're not going to use it. On something old like this with no filtration system, we're actually going to use a SAE 30 non-detergent oil. This stuff's pretty hard to find. The only way that I was able to get it locally was air compressor oil is a non-detergent oil. There are a lot of air compressor oils are. So the local O'Reilly's was more than happy to hook me up with this. It's expensive stuff though. All right, didn't even miss a drop yet. Okay, so I'm still trying to familiarize myself with this engine. And what was really weird last night when I was looking at it, of course you have the carburetor, but where in the world does the air come in at? And it really threw me for a loop, and we'll get to that part here in a minute. But the other thing that's pretty cool is at first I thought this was a generator. This is actually the starter motor. And if you look real close, even though this is 1924, I'm sure you guys won't be able to see it on camera, but it's 12 volts. So this car, despite being that old, is probably one of the earliest cars that was a 12 volt system as opposed to a 6 volt system. All right, but anyways, on the carburetor, of course, you don't have an air inlet. So I was looking around the car more last night, and we'll go on to the other side. And you see this. And of course, at first glance, you think, okay, it's an exhaust manifold. But as you look closer, it's the intake and the exhaust manifold. So you have this little deal. Honestly, I'm not 100% sure what it is. But if you look really close down lower, right above the distributor cap, which I'll get out the way, you actually have this intake tube. This intake tube goes into the block. So there's actually a crossover tube from this side of the engine to that side of the engine to let air come from here down into this manifold, through the engine, into the carburetor, back up into the valves, and then into the combustion chamber. So that's I'm not 100% sure why that would be a type of design, but it must work pretty well, or at least did back in the day. So I think one of the biggest things that we're going to struggle with on this is that's definitely going to be the ignition system. All the wires are very brittle. No telling what kind of shape the spark plugs are in, the points, the condensers, cap and rotor, anything like that. So before we get too far into this, the two things that we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and put a spark tester on this, see if we're getting spark to the plugs, And if we do, we're going to go ahead and drop the tank, get all the old nasty gas out before we try to start it, and go from there. All right. So another thing that I was kind of surprised by when I was doing some research on this car is it's a 12-volt car and it's negative ground, thank goodness. Some of the old stuff is positive ground, which is sketchy. So I've just borrowed a battery out of another vehicle at the moment. We'll slap it in here. Before we try to see if we've got spark, compared to a T model, which has a forwards, a reverse, and then a brake pedal, this one's more like a normal modern day car. You've got clutch, brake, and a gas. The only thing that is a bit odd is your starter switch is actually in the floor. That's going to be what triggers your starter. Coming up to the dash, and honestly I believe this to probably be true mileage. As much as my grandfather drove it back in the day, anywhere from the I think he got this around the late 40s, early 50s, and drove it for many years off and on. But it probably really does have 54,500 miles, which is a lot for a car this old. What threw me off last night was I was looking at this, and where the switch is now says off, and then this says on. But in reality, it's a headlight, so the interior light even works. And then this is your actual ignition. That noise that you hear is an electric fuel pump. That's definitely not original to the car, but it gets the job done. All right, so if we'll come back up here to the engine, one of the handiest tools that you can get for next to nothing is one of these. You can pick it up from almost any of your local auto parts stores. It's just an inline spark tester. So this end goes into your plug wire, this end goes on your plug, and it will show you in this little glass area spark. If it is sparking, it'll light up and jump spark across that. So it's an easy way to tell if you're actually getting fire at a plug. So we'll get it hooked up. All right, and then I'll turn the lights off here in the building so you guys will be able to see it better. But we'll look and see if we've got spark. Alright, it's hard to tell. I'm not sure how well it'll come across in the video, but we did get a little bit of spark. Maybe not as hot as it should be, I'm not sure, and how good it would have been back in the day compared to what I'm used to as far as a hot spark across the tool. But anyways, that's enough to make me confident that we're going to go ahead and confident enough that we're going to go ahead and drop the tank, get all the old nasty gas out, try to get some fresh gas in it, and then see if we can get it going.